It began as a secret and spiralled into a scandal, which has now torn through the police hierarchy and shaken public trust.
I want to apologise to the woman at the centre of this.
All of us are totally shocked and appalled by the contents of that report.
Their conduct in this matter is utterly inexcusable.
Many people will be looking at that and saying what went wrong.
Kia ora, ko Craig McCulloch aho, and te purongo tōranga pū mō tēnei wiki. Welcome to Focus on Politics. No one could miss the magnitude of the situation on Tuesday evening as a grim-faced trio fronted reporters in the Beehive Theaterette. The Attorney-General, Judith Collins, the Police Minister, Mark Mitchell, and the Commissioner, Richard Chambers.
It's an extraordinary set of events and extraordinary facts, and it must never happen again.
I cannot express how frustrated and disappointed I've been since becoming aware of the situation.
I want to apologise to the woman at the centre of this for the repeated early failures in following the proper processes investigating this matter by those at such a senior level of police.
Only hours earlier, the Independent Police Conduct Authority had pushed publish on a scathing report exposing an effective cover-up carried out at the highest levels of police. 135 pages of jaw-dropping revelations, all amounting to a finding of serious misconduct.
The actions and attitudes set out in the report are inexcusable and show disrespect and disregard for what New Zealand Police stands for.
The findings reveal significant flaws in decision-making, judgment and actions, raising serious concerns regarding the integrity and conduct of a group of individuals.
There was interference from the highest levels, and the interests and ambitions of a senior police officer were put above the interests of a vulnerable woman.
Judith Collins came ever so close to calling it corruption.
Well, I think if it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's not looking good, is it?
Well,
At the scandal's centre is the disgraced former Deputy Commissioner Jevon McSkimming. Last week he pleaded guilty in court, having admitted accessing child sexual exploitation and bestiality material on his work devices.
Anything you have to say for yourself?
The charges cover activity from 2020 through to 2024, but his unravelling goes back earlier, to an unrelated series of events set out in full in the IPCA report. In early 2016, McSkimming, then aged 40 and a superintendent, begins a sexual relationship with a 21-year-old woman, who the IPCA calls Ms. Z. Around the same time, he's promoted to Assistant Commissioner, and soon after helps Ms. Z secure a job at the Wellington Central Police Station. In mid-2018, after the relationship has ended, McSkimming fesses up to his wife, his supervisor, and others within the police, claiming the woman is now sending him threatening emails and blackmailing him. In September that year, a public message is posted on Facebook, tagging in both the police and the IPCA.
You must be careful of Jevon McSkimming. He has previously preyed on a young female who he lured in with countless lies and manipulation, all for his sexual gain. He threatened to post images of her online to keep her from exposing the truth about him.
But no action is taken. About a year and a half later, in April 2020, Andrew Coster is appointed as Police Commissioner by the then Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern. She commends his positivity, inclusion and integrity. Shortly after, McSkimming briefs his new boss on both the affair and the alleged email harassment. In October, McSkimming is promoted to Deputy Commissioner, continuing to climb the ranks. Fast forward to 2023, and the Public Service Commission is undergoing a recruitment process for new statutory Deputy Commissioners. It's an even higher rank, appointed at the recommendation of the Prime Minister, at that point Chris Hipkins. Andrew Coster himself sits on the interview panel, and McSkimming puts himself forward. Yet, neither man declares the situation, not the affair, not the power imbalance, not the subsequent allegations. Reference checks do flag up a, quote, strange relationship, end quote, but nothing comes of it, and McSkimming gets the job. The appointment is shared by the police on LinkedIn, and beneath it, more anonymous claims are posted.
You should be really proud of Jevon McSkimming, who cheats on his wife for years, using taxpayer-funded hotels and police property to do it in a way that makes him feel safe. Has sexually assaulted at least one police employee on police property, threatens to destroy and ruin people when he is concerned about his behaviour being known.
Only then do the police notify the IPCA, but they describe it as an ongoing matter and say it does not appear to require investigation. The IPCA fails to follow up. Fellow Deputy Commissioner Tanya Kura, whose appointment was also announced in that same LinkedIn post, also takes no action.
Actually, I accepted to start with, okay, there isn't anything to see here, but I did not think that it's my responsibility to then go over old ground and check every other person's done everything 5 years earlier.
Later that year and through into 2024, Ms Z takes her claims to a new level of intensity. She bombards McSkimming and others with hundreds of emails, as well as lodging 3 reports through the Police 105 online portal.
What is the complaints process? Jevon Murray McSkimming groomed young females, a predatory man who grooms young females for sex. Jevon creates destruction in society. If you were lied to, then does that mean you consent? Make sure you ask Jevon how many unsolicited photos he takes to try and blackmail them into silence.
At last, authorities spring into action, but not to investigate the claims. Rather, they turn their sights on Ms Z and arrest her mid-last year, charging her with causing harm through her deluge of emails. Here's what the IPCA says.
Some within police failed to recognise that a possible victim of sexual assault, who had allegedly been told for years by a very senior police officer that she would not be listened to, and that explicit images of her might be distributed if she tried to complain, might present as a desperate person, sending sometimes extreme and abusive emails in an attempt to be heard.
In June last year, finally Tanya Kura makes the call that someone needs to take a closer look at Ms Z's allegations. That investigation is called Operation Herb. But its terms of reference are intentionally kept narrow. It doesn't even require a conversation be had with Ms Z. Tanya Kura admits, according to the report, that she did not approach it as an ordinary sexual assault investigation because of McSkimming's rank. The IPCA says it was in no way consistent with proper policies and procedures.
Senior officers who were acting as decision makers held an entrenched view that Deputy Commissioner McSkimming was the victim rather than the offender, and were unduly preoccupied with ensuring he was not being unfairly disadvantaged in the forthcoming appointments process for the new commissioner.
Operation Herb is shut down in September after limited engagement with Ms Z. The IPCA says the closure was premature. That same month, it's announced that Andrew Coster will be stepping down as commissioner 6 months early to instead head up the government's Social Investment Agency. And though he's had a rocky relationship with National, ministers offer him only plaudits. Like Labour did at his initial appointment, they used the word integrity.
He has been working very hard to deliver for us as government.
Think about gang tangi and how that was a problem. Think about the Comanchero's been taken out. Think about the beat police going in, extra resources into gangs. He's done an exceptionally good job.
With the vacancy at the top now looming, McSkimming throws his hat in the ring, and in October he interviews for the position of Commissioner alongside Richard Chambers. But while Operation Herb may have closed, the matter is not at an end. By now, the Police Director of Integrity and Conduct has become increasingly concerned about the process, and so Detective Superintendent Kylie Shah contacts the IPCA. Days later, she formally refers Ms Z's complaints to the authority, and it begins its own independent investigation. It's clear Andrew Coster is unimpressed by the development. He too contacts the IPCA, warning that its inquiries could harm McSkimming's chance at getting that top job.
I'm concerned that the authority may inadvertently, significantly increase Jevon's victimisation from this pattern of harassment and do so in a way that will be irreversible in terms of his career.
The IPCA is unswayed. Already it's recommended that the Police Anti-Corruption Branch investigate as well, and it does. The National Integrity Unit launches Operation Jefferson and begins forensic interviews with Ms Z. But again, Andrew Coster intervenes. He convenes 2 meetings with key players with the intent, according to the IPCA, of bringing the investigation to a rapid and premature conclusion. Staffers later tell the IPCA Andrew Coster seemed keen on a shortcut, on rushing through a sort of quasi-investigation.
It was quite clear that he was very invested in Jevon becoming the next commissioner.
Come November, as Andrew Coster is wrapping up his final days in the job, he alerts the Minister, Mark Mitchell, to the IPCA investigation now underway into McSkimming. The Minister says that's the very first he heard of it. About a week later, he writes to the police to stress that any investigations are properly and carefully conducted, and the next day, McSkimming is finally placed on special leave. Operation Jefferson ultimately does not find enough evidence to charge McSkimming on Ms Z's complaints. But it is during that investigation that McSkimming's work laptop is searched and objectionable material found. In early May this year, the minister is informed and McSkimming resigns. As mentioned earlier, he pleaded guilty last week and now awaits sentencing. In total, the IPCA paints a picture of police leaders blinded by loyalty to one of their own, seemingly unwilling to even contemplate that McSkimming could be the offender rather than victim. Richard Chambers is all too happy to wash his hands of them.
I had absolutely no idea about any of this going on, about the references of a relationship, conversations that may well have been occurring. I knew nothing. Frankly, I was too busy doing my job. I did not participate in conversations. Frankly, I had no friendship with these people. I got on with my job as a policeman.
Across the board at Parliament, the response has been one of shock and condemnation.
All of us are totally shocked and appalled by the contents of that report. A young woman has been treated very poorly by police and the system has let her down terribly, and I'm sorry for that.
Ministers, current and former, insist they had absolutely no prior knowledge of the events laid out by the IPCA. Some of Ms Z's emails had been sent to the Beehive, but Mark Mitchell says he's since discovered that Andrew Costa's office had directed staff in the minister's own team to keep any mention of the allegations secret, meaning more than 30 emails were never passed on.
I can assure you that I would have wanted to see those emails, and had I seen them, then I would have acted on them immediately.
Labour's leader Chris Hipkins also insists he was never aware of any of the allegations while in charge, and has confirmed that none of his team were either.
Had any of this information come to my attention before that decision was taken, there is no way Jevon McSkimming would have been appointed.
Across the spectrum, the political sentiment is clear. Unmitigated fury at the previous police executive.
I got angrier and angrier as I read some of these contents are disgraceful.
Their conduct in this matter is utterly inexcusable.
We've been through and are in the Me Too era, and it should be within the judgment of anyone in senior office that allegations of this nature should always be taken seriously.
The findings were so damning that many people will be looking at that and saying what went wrong.
And not just what went wrong, but what now? Many of the top brass implicated have since left the police. As mentioned earlier, Andrew Costa now heads up the government's Social Investment Agency, but has been put on leave and has gone to ground. He's refusing all requests for comment while an employment conversation takes place with the Public Service Commission. But the tenor of Minister's comments would certainly suggest his time in that job has run out.
If this was me being named in this report, I would be ashamed of myself.
Without a doubt, he was the leader of the executive. He should be held to account for that.
So let's put it this way, if a minister tried to do that, I'm sure that the Prime Minister would have them out the door that day.
Tanya Kura is out the door already, having announced her retirement from police in July. She took leave from late August through until early November. 3 individuals criticised by the IPCA still remain with the police, but a KC has now been called in to assess their employment. The report makes 13 recommendations for police and a further 2 for the government. All have been accepted. The most significant is the creation of a new independent oversight role, an Inspector General of Police, with more powers than the existing IPCA. It is the strongest oversight option available.
The Inspector General of the Intelligence Services can basically go into any file, any place, any time, anywhere. Same with this. It's going to be significantly more invasive.
Many have commented this week on the parallels with the Margaret Baisley inquiry some 2 decades ago. That commission of inquiry was launched in 2004 after Louise Nicholas accused 3 high-ranking police officers of raping her in the 1980s and covering up her complaint. Ms Nicholas, now a victim's advocate, told 9 to Noon's Catherine Ryan she was floored and gutted by this week's revelations.
The scary part about this is that this woman notified police and said this is what has happened, and it was shoved under the carpet. And the reason I believe it was shoved under the carpet was because of who McSkimming was, high-ranking police officer, and they basically covered it up. It's as simple as that.
They believed him. Fundamentally, they believed him.
Yeah.
And isn't procedure there to protect you against that kind of human error? Isn't that where procedure must be followed?
They believed him because he told them everything that's come through is rubbish and I'm your boss. And you do what I say. And
it was his own boss protecting him in this instance.
Well, and true that. Yeah, there is processes, but those processes were blocked and they were blocked for a reason.
Let's look at what the IPCA report is recommending now. The government's now announced in response it will establish an Inspector General of Police. Do you believe this is a good move?
Well, as long as it's an external person, I do believe something is needed to oversee, but it's got to be done in such a way as don't just tick box it and say we've done it, prove you've done it. It's better to go slowly and be effective, and to show New Zealanders that actually what has happened, we're taking damn seriously, and we are going to do the best we can to ensure that this doesn't happen again.
On that, everyone can agree. That was Focus on Politics. I'm Craig McCulloch. Thanks for joining me. Mā te wā.